Kara, do you have any news for us?
Congressperson Andre Carson of Indiana stated on Sunday that it is, quote, his hope that there is a series of congressional hearings, including public hearings, on the UFO phenomenon in the wake of the release of the UFO report, saying, quote, the report is inconclusive. What we do know is that there have been nearly 150 sightings. 80 of those sightings have been detected with some of the best technology the world has ever seen. And, quote, we can't rule out something that's otherworldly, but that's a very small percentage. The congressman went on to call it curious that so many sightings occurred near military installations.
I don't know. I have a big problem with this. This is going to branch out into a whole nother conversation. So
sure,
get ready. I can't tell if, so my initial thought with these UFO reports is it's weird that the Army says that they know nothing about it. That's weird. It's weird that the government doesn't care that the Army's saying that they know nothing about it. It's weird that we live in this world where people are tying absolutely everything to party lines as though you're really a part of your party. Kara, what is your party? I mean, I'm sure you're not secret about this.
I mean, I vote Democratic.
Now, why did you not just say Democrat? You said, I mean, like, I vote Democrat. Why'd you state it that way?
Well, because most Democrats aren't communists, and I am.
Specifically being, you're not really a part of this party.
No, I disagree. If there was a party to the left of the Democrats, I would vote for that party.
Right.
Which, I mean, technically, sure, there is. There's like the Green Party or whatever. But you know,
now everybody's rolling their eyes. Oh, she's a commie, whatever. But the point here is that nobody is serious. There are, of all the people I have ever met, the only one that's like a Democrat that's just a woohoo Democrats, I'm a card-carrying member, is my wife's sister. She had a picture of Hillary, a framed picture of Hillary in her living room. And I walked in and I'm all, what the hell is this? I just thought, this is weird. This is totally weird.
Yeah, I mean, no one cares about the party.
Care, you know, so here we are tying this UFO thing to that, and it's totally ridiculous. And it leads me to believe I can't trust this guy. Even this guy's interest in this could just solely be associated with getting the people who have connected this to a side of the aisle. And this whole UFO thing, for the most part, is connected to the right side of the aisle. There's quite a few on the left. But when
this guy didn't actually say anything partisan about the UFO issue.
They don't have to. I'm just saying I can't trust him. Yeah, can't trust him. Not this. Sorry, it's the 4th of July, and I'm very irritated with this because you know, we were driving to Medford to do something, I don't know what, and I pull up. My wife's been asking me how I feel about patriotism. And I'm, well, yeah, I'm a patriot. You know, a lot of people don't think people on the left are, but I am. I'm totally a patriot. I come from a military family. For all the terrible things that the United States has done, they've done a whole lot of good things, and I think that the founding fathers basically creating the world's first democratic republic is worthy of being proud of for more than just 200 and some odd years. I think we can be proud of that for longer. I think there's a lot of things to be proud of. That a lot of these things just straight up wouldn't exist if we were here. But then, you know, I'm trying to think of it because she's saying, like, I don't know if I'm proud. I feel lucky. I don't know if pride is the thing. And I'm parked next to a flag and I looked at it and I got it. I looked at it and I thought, you know, in years past, I think I would have looked at this flag and thought, yeah, sure, America. That's great. That's cool. Maybe I would have thought, yeah, I saw some doofus wearing whirly wraps that were American flag pants, and that was gross, but also America, great, you know. But now I look at the flag, and it's even the flag itself has been partisan to the point that when I look at the flag, I think of the half of the country that hates me.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I don't like that. I think that's BS. I don't think I should look at our flag and think, oh, this is the symbol of the half of the country that hates me. Now, I don't think anybody did that on purpose. Maybe they did. I don't know. Maybe that's a whole conspiracy. But it sucks that I'm left in this position as a patriot that cares about my country. I now look at the flag and I think of people that don't like me.
Okay, well, I didn't actually say which party this guy belongs to. So, which party do you think he is?
Well, I don't know. I just went off on a tangent. Either party that he believes in, I can't separate the belief system that he's doing something noble from the belief system that he's probably trying to manipulate voters.
That's fair. And,
so he may be a Democrat, and that's great that it's crossing the aisles. That's cool. And I did go off on a tangent there, and I wish people would think about it and blah, blah, blah. But sorry, go ahead, Kara.
I mean, yeah, you can't trust Congress people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That said, I don't think having hearings is an insane idea. I mean, look into it. Sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, I definitely think that we should. I just can't, anytime anybody says anything, well, I was just...
that most of what the government does is stuff like this that is not partisan, right? It's just like, but that doesn't make the news because it's not juicy. The problem is that the news doesn't report on the 90% of stuff that the government does that's just like business as usual.
Yeah, C-SPAN. That's what my pets watch. And every time I come home from a trip, they never told me what I missed. But
it's our fault because everything that isn't partisan is deeply boring.
Oh, it is boring. And I like it. So,
like, yeah, it should be boring, but there's an endless appetite for political news.
Yeah, I've stopped watching the news since Trump's been out. I watch it like once a week. It's boring now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So whose fault is this whole thing?
Oh, mine.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you're selling. It's what you're buying.
A rash of mysterious bird deaths is taking place in Kentucky and Indiana. According to wildlife officials, songbirds have been getting sick and dying with an illness that causes eye swelling and neurological signs in birds, primarily affecting blue jays, grackles, and European starlings. So far, West Nile and bird flu have been ruled out. Experts are warning people to keep their pets away from any dead birds.
Oh my God. Okay. Do you have the post COVID trauma that every time you hear about something that slightly sounds like the movie Outbreak, you start to go, oh God, burn their bodies?
I don't think this is going to be a big deal, but as you know, I have a solid policy of reporting on any news story that sounds like it could be like playing on the news in the background in the first 10 minutes of like a thriller movie or a horror movie. Right. Anything like that, I'm going to report. Just,
basically
as a point of principle.
Right. For you, this is the equivalent of typing first in the comments on YouTube.
A little bit.
Oh yeah, well, I brought that up like 2 years ago. Nobody even cared about the vomiting birds on your doorstep.
I mean, obviously, I'm not first because to clear something up for our listeners, I am not a journalist. I'm not calling people. I'm not doing independent research. I am reporting on what other journalists have discovered.
So it really is like the comment saying first.
Yes, it's like, which to be fair, most pundits do that. The list of actual journalists, it's kind of like the Associated Press, and that's it.
Right. Like every time they throw
there's not a lot of
working on papers, I know he's just critiquing other people's work.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, I am terrified of this. I do have I'm dealing with multiple levels of post-traumatic stress here. Between the fires and now, dead birds and pandemics and, I think of myself as somebody who's just whatever, I go through life. It doesn't matter. But I think there are tinges of that within me. And I just, I'm not very in touch with my feelings, Kara.
So. Yeah. Well, we never really know. I think most of us were like, yeah, bring on the apocalypse. Who cares? And then we were told
until it's there. And then we're all like,
right. Then we get told, oh, but there's no AC and you can't go outside for a year. And we're like, oh, make it stop. Please solve this, So
well, is there anything we can do about the AC?
Right. Exactly. We do. People enjoy it.
If we have to.
Maybe controversial to say, but I think people like civilization. I think people prefer it to the alternative.
The other fear that all of this has left me with is that the pandemic, regardless, okay, I want everybody who's listening to take out whether you think it's real or not. Let's say that, and let's say that somebody came to us and our government and said, there's a bomb in the earth, and if you guys don't dig this hole, you won't get to it. And you're all going to die. This pandemic has left me with the belief that if we are ever faced with an existential situation,
which we are,
we're going to die.
Yes. But
this is not going to work.
It's not an if situation.
We
There's
couldn't
climate
even have
change.
the conversation as to if it was real or not.
Right,
much
exactly.
less solve it. You know, it's like we couldn't even have a pleasant conversation about if it was real and what to do. And now everybody's just all, oh, well, look back, you didn't even need to do that stuff. Yeah, you learn, you collect the data, you plan for next time. I mean, like when my wife and I make a decision that's bad, I don't like sit there on the couch for the next 6 months going, you totally messed that one up. That's totally your fault. No, I get behind the decision. We make the decision together. It is our joint problem. That's the way. I don't know.
What frustrates me about this is when I hear people being like, oh, well, they told us we don't need masks, and then they told us we do need masks. And I'm like, dude, you're describing like a 2-week period in March of last year. There was like a whole year in which the messaging was very consistent and very simple, where it was just like,
well, and also that's the nature of learning stuff.
People just didn't do it. Yeah.
You know, information changes. People are misinformed. People make mistakes, but you can't.
Yeah, it's like, so because it was
that mistake. I mean, every person who I'm feeling safe to say that anybody who rides the mistakes of others is either single or very, very unhappily married.
Yeah, that's fair.
And if you're not, you probably just don't know it. Because like, how can you just go through life? I'm done. I need constructive criticism. I don't want to hear another person tell me what we did wrong, what we shouldn't be doing. I want constructive criticism. You can tell me anything you want, as long as you tell me what we should do moving forward that will help everybody.
I mean, here's the thing about that.
That'll shut up 99% of the people.
Well, the thing about that is, you know, the thing that springs to my mind as the most constructive thing to say here is just going to make you like mad, because my feeling is don't elect Trump again. That's the best way to deal with any future problems like this, you know.
Well,
which is a very partisan position that will piss people off, just like you were talking about originally.
I think that's part of the problem here. I think a lot of that, you know, it's going to be great on the web. But I also think that's part of the problem here is that people sum up problems because they want to put things in boxes. And once things are in boxes, they want to put boxes in boxes. And on top of that, and we look at the world and we say, oh, Trump, bleh. Man, we had these problems. Trump really created very few new problems in this country. Very few new.
Oh, true. Yeah,
he might have, you know, tore open some ones that were already there and made them worse.
Right. See, I think he made existing problems worse.
The only real problem that he invented was he really kind of destroyed some of our relationships with our allies that I hopefully is coming back. But outside of that, you know, he's not the problem. You know, he just ain't.
Sure. But I mean, here's the thing. We're talking about partisan again. I would argue that the root problem is just the far right. That they exist. Like, so, like, I mean,
it's terrible.
Look, if I'm being honest,
that's their problem with you.
I know, but I'm right and they're wrong.
How do you fix that?
Well, like, you can't.
Imagine that
it's not a fixable problem.
No, imagine that you are a conflict resolver. And you get sent to a planet where everybody on the planet basically has the mentality of a 12-year-old till the end of their life, because that's how the two of you view one another. That's how the left views the right and the right views the left. So you get sent to a planet with a group of 12-year-olds. and your job is to make it as good as possible for them.
Well, I would separate
That's the advice we need. We don't need to, well, we obviously just need to burn half the 12-year-olds. It's like, that's
I see what you're saying, but I'm saying there's no actionable plan of like compromise between those positions. I don't think that's possible. So I think if you like pressed me to come up with a solution, I'd say put all the 12-year-olds here, put all the 12-year-olds there, other 12-year-olds there, and just make sure they don't interact anymore.
Separate but equal.
Sure.
Whoops. You can't do that. That already didn't work.
Yeah, but people did that with freaking races, not ideologies.
I know. But
having a race, your race has nothing to do with who you are as a person. Your ideology is who you are as a person.
Yeah, but I think that's the problem with people in this world. And that is that, and I don't mean you're the problem. I'm the problem too. I'm trying to become aware of it. So I'm definitely not a pundit trying to tell everybody who they need to be. I am the problem as well. But I think the problem is our general viewing of ourselves in the world, of this attitude of, if everybody were just like me, it would be okay. Or if everybody were just like my group of people, it would be okay. And we all kind of have that attitude. That's how I feel about people that I want to hang out with, and so on and so forth. It's hard to escape that attitude. But the attitude that I'm thinking we need to adopt is a little more evolutionary, and that is weather the storm until we're smart enough to pull this off.
Sure, and I can get behind that. But here's my thing. It's not like every ideology is equal. Like, there's so many ideologies throughout the history of the world that have gone by the wayside because they totally suck. Let's say half the world suddenly started believing in the divine right of kings again.
The divine right of what?
The divine right of kings. Let's say, half the world was suddenly monarchist, which is what people were for most of history.
Yeah, we seem to be getting back to that.
Well,
we're working our way there.
Like, what's the compromise with that? How do you get along with people who like, okay, there should just be a king who's in charge of everything?
Well, I assume that kings were initially invented in history. They started out as despots that ruled for enough generations to the point where they were able to convince people that they were divine. Well, and we're just working on that now.
That's not what the divine right of kings is. The divine right of kings is the historical idea that God had ordained certain people to be kings, and that it was something called the great chain of being. Basically, the idea that there was a divinely ordered hierarchy of people, and that any break in the hierarchy would not only cause chaos, but was against God. Oh. And that was what people, essentially in Europe and in many other places, it developed sort of independently a couple times, believed was like that was how people saw the world for thousands of years.
Sounds like an awesome sci-fi.
And essentially no one believes this anymore because that ideology sucked and we got rid of it. So I'm saying some ideologies suck and we need to get rid of them. And that's not insane because we've done that before. And we can all agree now that the divine right of kings was bad. So I'm saying, fascism needs to also go that way. And honestly, so does like proto-fascism, alt-right in that area. That's just as bad. So I think hopefully we will eventually realize that ideology sucks and eventually no one will believe it anymore. And I don't think that's terribly unreasonable.
Yeah, we're just not there yet, though, is what I'm saying.
No, of course we're not.
The being that we are needs to weather the storm until we're capable of doing that.
Yeah, well, so how would you suggest weathering the storm?
By mitigating problems in the ways that help the most amount of people feel the confident, like Childhood's End. Did you ever read Childhood's End?
No.
So spaceships come over, they stop all wars, and within 2 generations, humanity starts to evolve to another level because everything that they were spending, all the brain capacity that they were spending on conflict, they were now able to put towards construction.
Sure.
So, something like that,
But it's not possible to have construction without having a conflict with the people who disagree on how it should happen.
Yes, but I mean, we're getting pretty broad with the definition of conflict. I mean, of course,
I'm not saying, I'm not talking about civil war.
I mean, you're not going to punch him in the face and be all, it needs to be a trapezoid. It's like.
No, I know, but you see what Like, if it was just as easy as everyone needs to sit down and solve the problems, well, sure, but like they're not going to do that because they don't agree. And not only do they not agree, it's not like one side saying it would be nice if this was 10% different, and the other side is saying no. One side is saying we should go left, and the other side is saying we should go right.
Right.
You know, and you can't split your body in half.
We are physically incapable of agreeing.
Yeah, I agree.
So we need to drop the attitude that everybody needs to be one way, and we need to start the attitude of we need to mitigate the storm until we're capable of pulling that off.
I just don't see how you mitigate. I don't see how you mitigate anything when it's impossible to agree on any topics.
Well, I mean, I was talking to my daughter about this, you know, so you got the you got democracy, you know, and everybody's
Sure.
just, oh, we're a democracy, dang it. But we're not a democracy. We're a democratic republic. But wait, we're not a democratic republic. We're a constitutional democratic republic. And a lot of people go, oh, yeah, I forgot we have these things. But those things mean something. So we're a republic. We're broken into sections. Each of those sections is a democracy. I'm not telling you this. I'm explaining to the audience. Each of those sections is a democracy with the line drawn in the sand that is
well, each of those sections is a republic. It's not like there's a legislature for each state, which makes the rules. So it's still representative, which makes it a republic.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you drill that down, but it when right. And then the Constitution is the line. Basically, right. You know, in a true democracy, 51% of us could sit around and vote every black person needs to get out of the country.
Right. And the Constitution is there to say, you know,
the next day we would start doing that. But obviously we have a Constitution that draws the line that says, no, you can only be this much of an asshole, right. You know, and I don't know. We're babies. We're babies in the grand scheme of things. I think we just need to change our attitude of how are we going to survive until we're less stupid.
Yeah. Well, I hope that is possible.
Yeah, me too. What's that hump thing with the evolution? There's some term for the reason why we might not have met other species, and that's
the great filter.
Yeah. We might get great filtered.
Yeah. Google stated in a paper that it has a new AI that can design chips in less than 6 hours, a feat that would take humans many months. This AI is already being used to design Google's first generation of tensor computer chips, which in turn will be used to make even more powerful AI systems. First chess, then Go, and now integrated circuit design. Is there nothing the machines won't touch? And finally, Brood 10, the cicada swarm that enveloped the American Northeast last month, clogging jet engines, causing car crashes, and generally making trouble, has finally died following intercourse, leaving their horrible bug corpses everywhere. They will be taking a 17-year hiatus to return again in the year 2038. I will be 45 years old. And I'll be like, oh my, I remember the 2021 when
back when you could go outside.
Yeah, exactly. Back before we had to wear these gas masks and shoot at raiders who were trying to steal our water supplies.
Right. Back then, we didn't even think about cooking cicadas to eat them, much less that they would come out of the ground already cooked.
God.
Okay, so Google created Skynet. Google created an AI that builds better hardware that builds better AI.
No. I know. That's like the thing.
That's like a while ago. Is this right? Google has built an AI that builds better hardware that can then build AIs.
Yes, it builds better chips for better AIs.
Huh.
Which in turn, theoretically, can be used to make even better chips to make even better AIs.
On some level, this is like taking prisoners in prison, and instead of having them make license plates, we decide we're going to have them make keys.
Yeah, kind of. I mean,
basically, we're giving them the ability that once they figure it out to escape.
Yeah. This doesn't seem like a very good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you can argue, I think, plausibly, these computers are nowhere near sentient. Like, all they know how to do is math. So like, we have to implement the chips, you know, we have to do all this stuff. So it's not like we're going to be like, this new computer chip looks like it's from Mars. It's a little concerning. Maybe we shouldn't plug it in. You know, there are humans in the process. So yeah. I don't think we should, you know, say the sky is falling yet. However, I think, as far as I can tell, this is sort of the first time that we've done anything sort of like this, like, singularity cycle where, like, machines are making better machines. That's sort of the first time that's happened. And so I think it's not probably going to be a problem yet, but it might be a problem in the future. And this is just sort of normalizing that this is something.
It's just like,
we're finally getting there. We're finally getting
going to come where they're just all, Bill, can you explain to me why the new chip just asked me for my social security number?
Yeah, exactly.
And as much as I love this on a science fiction level. There's this great old Ray Bradbury story that's about after nuclear war of the house making breakfast and cleaning up, and eventually we see the ash burns on the side of the house. We see it. I don't think they ever even made a Ray Bradbury theater of it, so apparently the book burned the image into my head. But and so I love it on a science fiction level. On a fan of science level, I know that computers are absolutely nowhere near processing power of the human brain. It just isn't. The scary thing will be when a dumbass computer decides it wants to get smarter by absorbing human brains. That's like that's like the total scary moment, you know.
See, I feel like eventually, like, it's going to be able to just make a better version of the human brain, right? It's not gonna need us. Like, it's gonna be like, oh, we can do this, but let's make it more efficient because, you know, someone's actually designing. But
you know, obviously you're gonna say you're a transhumanist on some level, but
sure.
But when it comes to, like, technology and stuff, are you?
Like, yeah, I mean,
would you want a cochlear implant / Wi-Fi connector? And don't get me wrong, I'm not coming down on people who need a cochlear implant. I'm saying as an upgrade.
Here's my feeling. I think augmenting our body with technology is awesome, and I'm here for it. I think the only concerning part about that is due to, like, other systems that I am skeptical of. Like, not a fan of capitalism. So I think if I maybe wouldn't want to have, like, a computer chip designed by a company in my head, right? Because they're just gonna charge me software update, you know, charge me money every year, like software as a service, to retain my memories of my loved ones or something crazy like that, you know?
Plus my whole family would make fun of me for getting the Samsung implant while they all had the iPhone one.
Exactly. So I think if we lived in a world like without capitalism, I would be much less skeptical. So my skepticism of this is not due to the technology itself. It's due to we live in a society run by horrible systems, and I don't trust those systems to do it.
As a person who does believe in regulated capitalism,
sure.
I do have to point out that while capitalism does have a lot of potential for creating classism, it is not the only thing in history that's done it.
Oh, sure.
And classism has, you know.
Look, I think the only good form of I think the only, like, good form of government has not been, like, invented yet or tried yet, you know? I think we need to experiment a little more, figure it out.
Right, but
my political philosophy is that capitalism is terrible and unsustainable. What should replace it? Who knows? We need to figure out something else.
Okay, this goes back to earlier. I only want constructive criticism, Kara.
Okay, replace every corporation with a co-op and get rid of the ability to own private property.
But could co-ops own co-ops? Like, could there be a co-op of co-ops?
As long as every person involved, like, owns a appropriate portion of the company, then I don't have a problem with it.
It'd be called, like, a conglomerate.
Yeah. So yeah, just something to try, you know?
Right.
Get on that, Congress. Radically restructure our life. please.
And then finally, we talked about cicadas, and I only have one thing interesting about the cicadas to say. I mean, what's to say? I was watching Stephen Colbert, and he did something interesting. He had Jon Stewart on, and because of the cicadas, he put up a picture of what they looked like last time the cicadas came out. And I thought it was kind of a fun way to talk about the cicadas. So now I'm interested in now tracking my life as though I am cicada mating. And I'm just going to take a picture once every 17 years.
Yeah. And yeah, that's what I love about them. You know, they're creepy bugs and I hate them, but they're punctual. They're reliable. Yeah. You can just kind of count on them. They'll be back. They're like Halley's Comet, you know?
All right. You're listening to Radio Wasteland. If you're listening terrestrially, tonight our guest is the one, the only Samuel Hofman. If you're listening on the internet, well, aren't you special? Your guest can be whoever you want it to be. All right, welcome back to Radio Wasteland with our guest. Today is Samuel Hofman returning. Kara is out with family. Apparently that is important to her, whatever. All right, Samuel, I'm always happy to have you on because, for one, you only call in because your computer situation up there apparently is not good, and it means I don't have to, comb my hair or anything.
Yeah, and we don't have to wear pants.
Yep, no pants.
But I assure you, I do have pants on, although they are very old, and there's a hole in the left knee. Anyway,
as for me, everybody. Just imagine whatever it is you imagine something that'll make you keep listening. So, go ahead.
I think we're going to actually see a change in our societal clothing apparel from the 2020 event and forward. They're talking how clothing sales have skyrocketed on the national news today. Over 20%. So.
Yeah, my wife was saying she was out shopping. We were out together. I go with her so we can spend quality time as I stand around as she shops. But she was basically saying that she can tell that's going on in style, that comfort has taken over lots of the clothes that are up for sale. And it's really all about comfort clothes now that people have gotten used to it.
We could always hope and pray that maybe this is the end of the tie.
Yeah, I always thought the tie was a weird thing.
I detested wearing a tie all those years. I had to, and it's just like, try to shave every day and still wear that stupid tie. Anyway.
Okay, so one of the things that we're discussing here, that we were discussing before we came on was allergies, and I have never had allergies as bad as I do since I moved to Oregon, and you were saying that you have them.
Yeah, and I've never really had them for most of my life, and within the last 3, 4, 5 years, it's just kicked up into something that's a nightmare.
I assume that has something to do with climate change. That's what I've been thinking, but
I heartily agree with you. We are, and I've said this a million times, we're not in Kansas anymore, and let's, just discuss this massive heat wave that we just are going, we're still in. These heat temperatures went all the way up into Canada, all the way up to Hudson Bay and everything, and people know that, we had a temperature rise here in the United States, but they don't discuss the fact this went all the way in the middle of Mexico and all the way up and through middle to the top of Canada. I was just looking at the graphs, and we're talking excruciatingly high temperatures for that high in the latitudes. And, this is, I believe, we're seeing the direct onset of course, we talk about global warming, but this is, of course, solar system warming because the two suns. And a lot of people don't take into account the binary scenario. They just get lost in the planets. And remember, this extra thing is a star and another group of planets that are attached to us as well, and always have been and always will be. And we're not paradoxical. It's a flowing circular thing that happens every 3,654, give or take, years. And if you look, go ahead if you had something to say.
Yeah, well, we do come back to this, on the reg, and that is us being a part of a binary system, and these environment changes, are they connected beyond our ability to control, or is this something we should still care about?
Oh, well, yeah, we should care about it. if we go back through the ice core samples back to the 1700 BCs, and remember we count backwards the opposite direction when coming closer to our time, so it would go 1750, 1730, 1710, 1680, 1650. Through that period of time, the ice core samples show that we were into a literal average daily temperature of the planet Earth at 130 some degrees. So, and this showed this for a period of a 10-year, 15, 20-year period, and then it dropped off real quick, and then they had another minor overheating scenario as well in the 1650s, and then it went back to a onset ice age scenario where, you know, we know with the stuff that we do know as our current normal weather, and followed by, you know, the melt off of the ice age, etc. And which, of course, had a great deal to do with climate migration and everything, and why the people went to underground to live in Cappadocia, which is modern-day Turkey, why there were vast cities underground. So should we take note of this? Yes, I have a funny feeling a lot of us are going to be really, really hot and might have to change our building habits and where we live and how we get through our day. And now can you imagine if we didn't have electricity, how many people would be with no air conditioning and all these other things?
Yeah, absolutely. And I consider myself a climate refugee, moving out of Reading and moving north. Moving away from the heat was definitely a factor in what's going on here. So tonight we have you on the show for a reason. We've had you on once before. When we post stuff from you, we get a lot of questions. And we figured, we know you so well, it's better to just pose them at you instead of let them float out there or put I don't know, we'll ask him when we get around to it. So we're hoping you answer some of the questions that have been asked to us about your appearances on the show. I assume that's good with you, right?
Yeah, fire away, and I'll give it my best shot.
Okay, so the first one is Bevan Urine, and I apologize to anybody if I mispronounce your names. I mean, heck, some of them aren't even words. Hey, Sam, tell the story how it was Harrington and you who identified Planet X in 1983.
Wow, 1983. Well, it wasn't me that had anything to do with the identification in 1983. I wrote my paper in 1978 and was pressured and sequestered in 1980. That information was used by them, and apparently it took them about 3 years from what this is, of course, through rumor, and I don't have any absolute proof of it. But it took them apparently that long to understand stuff. Now, when it comes to Harrington, yeah, he was in charge of the SETI Alpha group that was heading down to Australia, and so they could get the view of the approach, because the body, the entire solar system and their star came up from below us, and then over about a 3-year period was visible. Literally, if you had some of these new cameras, you could see it, but you couldn't really see it at all until all of a sudden, bang, it was there, and we started seeing stuff at the Newmeyer Station and all of that. And they had a group of names where they were naming them Harrington and this and that and the other thing, which we've never, of course, had subscribed to, because I was given information from other sources off-world. But through my description, I would imagine they put some of the pieces together that they didn't have. And not only that, I'm sure that they had a certain level of information that I wasn't being shared with as well, that they may have known more than I do, and which is entirely possible. They have entire teams working on this. So anyway, that's sort of my answer to you there.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of that stuff's on need to know, compartmentalized, you know. That's
right. Information always goes up. It never, ever trickles down.
Yeah, that's the one thing that Karen and I have been passing back and forth about, the Navy and the UAP sightings and stuff like that, is that, you know, it's probably just our own tech, and one hand doesn't know what the other's doing.
Right,
it's just
right.
as likely as anything else.
And all information, and in my brief period of time that I was an insider, all the information we dealt with was absolutely vetted before they even released anything downward, period. It went through channels no matter what, and they were very adamant about it.
Okay, so up next we got Mary Anon. Again, sorry if I mispronounce them, but it's your username. Get over it. Sam, do you think she has two questions here. Let's go with the first one. Sam, do you think we should be purchasing gold?
Not at today's prices. Boy, if you'd have purchased gold about 20 years ago, you'd be wealthy right now. No, I don't agree with buying gold at these prices. And that's just for common finance. I would maybe look more into silver right now because it's a little more tolerable. But the gold is a touchy scenario because you're going to gather some more interest towards you than you want later if you happen to hang on to it from more than one faction. Let's put it that way. Humans won't be the only ones interested in your gold if you have it. I don't currently own any.
Right, yeah, I assume that's part of where I assume she's a she, is her question is coming from, and that is that, given the off-world interest in gold that you talk about, is it a good idea to purchase it?
Now, there's a huge medicinal value in it. I don't know if wearing it can actually help you, but I know that consuming it in monatomic gold will actually regenerate your cells. And we can self-heal during this time of two suns. But I, of course, don't have a whole bunch of money to throw to that scientific study, although I wish I did. And that's about the best I can tell you on that.
Okay, her next question is, and should we ask for a release of information from the government in regard to their knowledge of Planet X?
I don't think they'll ever give it because they will. Everyone will then find out just exactly how badly we've been lied to about their knowledge, and then they'll also find out about the treaty where certain people are allowed, a number of people per year are allowed to be abducted, and et cetera, which both sides of the parties have broken the treaties, by the way, many years ago, and they've been arguing back and forth. Of course, they're still in negotiations over what's going on. And not only that, we're supposedly going to be entertaining some guests in the nearby future. So, we should not plan to be freaked out by what's happening, and we should also be aware that there's going to be coming changes.
You are listening to Samuel Hofman on Radio Wasteland. 4 tray North Sida, followed by an asterisk, very creative. It says electromagnetic universe period, so that's, let's see if that bleeds into our next one pretty well. Anon says, why no discussion of the magnetic signatures of ISWA, ISWA, Integrated Space Weather Analysis System? Clearly show the conical hat when Ra arrived, and those planets are Horus's box. We live in a 3-sun system. Your observations are good. Your analogy of what you are seeing is incorrect.
Yeah, I've heard the trinary scenario many times, and I've heard that from that person, as a matter of fact, many times, and looked into it. I can't go with the trinary system because it doesn't work mathematically according to my personal equations that did work out, that got the government attention. And if I was wrong, I do not believe they would have stifled me with a 30-year non-disclosure agreement. They would have just ignored that 17-year-old kid in Montana. But when we talk about a trinary, now we do know that from the Pleiadian information I was given, that there is a tool star, which is a tiny ultraviolet blue star that hangs just off the atmosphere of Nibiru, and I have not talked a lot about this in the past to very many people because I haven't absolutely been able to prove it beyond, a few dozen photographs. And when you see the blue shaft light in some photographs where it goes, it's a shaft of vertical light that goes through all the pictures, straight up, straight down, goes top to bottom. That is the Nibiru's tool star. And as it was explained to me was the planetary system where the people live on in the secondary larger solar system, the Nibiru group, those people would go behind at some point in time, behind Hercubus, and away from the visual of their star and be dumped into ice ages that would last 1,000 years or whatever. So they created this tool star, which is like throwing an extra magnet on the table to keep the attraction and placement of their planet directly in line with their star at all times. And that's technology I don't fully understand, but I was informed that it had to do with part of their gold tech, etc. And so, in fact, you could actually call it trinary, but this is a being-made or a man-made creation, and I'm not going to say sun simulator because that's an entire another story and a whole bunch of Facebook chaos and disinfo having to do with that, and that was made up by some silly people that really didn't know what they were talking about. But anyway, and of course I got into a snowball and went just completely crazy. But the trinary scenario is entirely possible, but believe me, we have two. If we had three, then we'd have a whole another ball game going on altogether, and it would be a nightmare.
Gotcha. Okay, Lucinda Ray 786. Again, thanks, Chauncey, for having Samuel back on your show. We love it when you do. Oh, Andrea must have put that in to make me feel good. Lucinda, you're my new fave. Okay, this last one is this one I know you're not on board with. It's just wild, but I don't know if this person's joking or what. I'm just going to see if you've heard of it before. 74 Ohm King Avalon 47 says, if you add flat Earth, round Earth, and hollow Earth, you get an eyeball. We live on the flat Earth under the dome in the iris. The hollow Earth is the North Pole. It's the pupil. It's the entrance to the eyeball. It's where the light comes in. Then you have the white wall ball you can't cross, and it's the South Pole, and it's where the cosmic eye connects to the cosmic mind, so you can't go there. So it's all one thing. You have to look at the whole thing because they're all correct.
Wow.
Mind blown.
I don't even know if we dare answer that.
Well, it makes me think of a celestial, like the head nowhere in Guardians of the Galaxy or whatever.
Right, and when people start throwing flat Earth and the firmament and all of that stuff out, I just sit there and go, oh boy. They don't even take into account cosmic rounding. I'm sorry, we're not on some plane, which would constitute us being farther under a matrix level of control by some sort of larger beings that are, next thing you know, you're going to have E.T. looking in the fishbowl, giant big head looking in our tiny little fishbowl joke.
Right.
Great that they believe what they believe in. I'm sorry, I can't go there.
Yeah. Well, that's our collection of questions, so we're in the weeds now, so we're able to just kind of go for it. What can people expect to see coming up in the skies? Well, have you noticed the amount of disclosure that's going on? Yeah, that's been a big topic around here, and, I'm personally more disturbed that the government is admitting that they don't know something. Yeah, I'm sure they're completely discussing because they can't avoid what we've been citing. We have had worldwide sightings since the last time we spoke of the Long Box Cube and the Texas Cube and fleets, and I'm not talking fleet, I mean fleets, plural, multi-plural, and cubes, and we're watching the Empire Orb again, and this week, and they announced the cylinder. They talked about a cylinder being sighted, and this was, of course, a NASA release. And I have, by eye, twice this week seen the cylinder in the sky using my own two eyes, not a camera or anything like that. Because I fry, by the way, everybody, I don't take my own pictures anymore because I fry cameras. I've bought 5 cameras, and they don't work for me because I fry electronics. Anyway, same reason I don't have a cell phone. I have seen by eye this huge, massive cylinder, and the sky sightings have been so unbelievable because these planets are so close, and they're just, we're swimming in them, and most of the time you're staring at a planet at one time or another, and there's absolutely no clouds in the sky, but we're literally staring at literally a planet in a lot of cases. And then they come in, and it's been really, really weird because it's all directionally changed from my first decade of viewing. Where they arrived from is completely different now than when they did, which means we're definitely in between them.
and all the crop circles are leading toward solar separation, and we're seeing multiple discussions about the Mayan and the Aztec calendar, and that's just as of May 26th, we moved into the period known as the sixth sun, which tells me, and I was calling separation here a few months ago, which tells me that all of these things are falling into line. So we're literally going to start seeing more facial illuminations of the planets as they go past us, and you can see them at greater at sunset, where Nibiru and Saturn are literally coming over the top of us every evening at nightfall. And that, of course, changes from time to time. And then we'll have we'll like run a week where you don't get any very good sightings because of where we are somehow. I haven't figured out the whole axis thing. But the axes are changing again, and we're seeing what we refer to as the dance. And now Nepesity and Atu have switched places again visually, whereas Uri is massive in the entire left side of the sun, and then now we're seeing the connection between Atu and Uri again reconnect with the cloud bank, and then the ionization tail, with the ion tail, the split tail that goes around is Saturn's yellow moon, and her two other moons. We've been talking about those because they're becoming visible now. So all of these events they're so over at the top of us now. It's just, if you know what you're looking at, it's just an unbelievable show. If you don't know what you're looking at, it's kind of like, oh my God, what the hell is that? And I've seen some skies that I've never yet to this in the entire 12 years we've been watching some stuff that's still blowing me away. But it's similar, but it's so close enough on us that it's really hard to tell now because it's so drastic and awesome. I mean, it's just unbelievable what's going on in the sky. And if you're not out watching this, you're missing the show of a lifetime.
Yeah, I like a lot of Americans have not been outside much.
No, and God, this disclosure about these alien ships, we're not talking a handful of ships. There is so many up there. It's just, it's spooky. And this has got to be, here we just had another G7 summit. Now I'm putting my, tongue on the chopping block. And we know that from the sightings for the last month, 2 months, 3 months going back, there's so many craft going above us. And the long box cube was moved. They moved and they dropped in orbit again, and then they started hanging out over Europe a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, and then we've been getting sightings of them where they're circling back down to Australia again. So now about 3-4 years ago, they did this routine where they went from the North Pole to the South Pole in a vertical orbit around Earth, and we captured it on many different radars, and we saw it from one country to the next, where everybody said, yeah, it was here today, and yeah, it was here today, and yeah, it was here today, and it was like circling the Earth. And then, if you remember, we talked about this where we saw rockets where it changed and it like lifted itself back up into the orbit. Well, we believe they've dropped back down again because they're being sighted all over Europe and South America and Australia and Brazil and all of this. So the long box cube is moving. There's mini orbs around. There's smaller cubes, mega ships, support craft, fighter squadrons. I mean, if you're interested in this, and I'm, of course, talking to the listener, if you're interested in this, there's so many sightings going now. You cannot deny this, and everybody's talking on Facebook and stuff about the rumors. Well, the government's going to do a fake alien invasion. Well, no, excuse me, this is real.